Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel. In this video, it's finally here, Team List Tuesday, albeit we only get the two Vegas games this week, but SuperCoach and NRL Fantasy are kicking off. So I had a bit of comments on some of the other videos I'd put out from the other sports around when are you showing us your SuperCoach and fantasy teams, and I thought probably we can get it all done in one video, which would go good. There may be a slight adjustment towards the end of the week, but I guess it's a good opportunity to look at the current sort of where the teams stand, and obviously we'll do a bit of a live reaction to the teams. I guess it's currently about 10 minutes until the teams drop at the current time of recording. So we'll look at SuperCoach first and then Fantasy. I guess just with SuperCoach, a reminder, probably the next video that'll come out after this is the Redraft League, Thursday night, 6 o'clock Queensland time, so 7 o'clock for New South Wales. Don't know what time that'll be in Vegas if you're fortunate enough to be over there. But yeah, you'll probably work it out from what you see here anyway. But we'll have a look at the team. I'll try and squeeze all the forwards into the screen to start with. So not a lot of change here. I've gone with Sandon Smith and Corey Pakes in the halves, mostly just for value. As you can see, I've got about 37k, so not quite enough to push one of them up to Mamazelis. And I think, maybe there's not that much difference. Like, I don't necessarily think Mamazelis will outscore these guys by that much. So I think, saving the 70k and, using Pakes is not the worst strategy. There's a bit of rumour about Owen Paddy getting a start on the bench for the Raiders. So, like I said, we'll find out very soon. But I think Ricky's current setup with the bench is not the best in terms of, Starling gets about 50 minutes and then the bench hooker comes on for the last 25-30. So I don't think he's worth starting, but if he was to work his way into the starting team, because, Ricky's tossed up between Starling, Danny Levi, even Zach Wolford over the past few years, no one's really nailed down that spot. So if the young fella can get it, he'll be a nice little, but hopefully downgrade by that point. I know a few people worried about Sandon Smith based on the trial, but I guess with the trial, I've sort of taken the view of, no one's sort of written themselves out of the team, because sometimes, teams are still ironing things out in the trials. In saying that, I have brought a couple of players in based on their trial form, so a bit hypocritical there, but I think there was just a couple of teams that I sort of liked the look of. And, wanting to get those particular players in. So at the moment, you'll see the front row is pretty stacked. This may change slightly, but the three big guns I've got Barnett, I've talked up all pre-season. Terrell May looked really good in the trial. I don't think I can ignore. I don't think I can antipod, so he is in. And Tino came back, only had a short stint, but looked good. That's all I really needed to see. To lock him in, obviously on the buy round one, is useful for loopholing purposes. And then Nafahu White's always been in the squad, but with the news Lenu's out, sounds like he's going to start in the front row, get some good minutes, and sort of, I guess, start the season in the right frame. So happy to have him in. I guess the hope is that you can see in the second row we've got Trey Mooney. Ideally, I'd love him to get the starting prop spot similar to the trial that they had. I know Corey Horsburgh wasn't involved in that trial. It may have just been an opportunity to give him some minutes. But if he did get the nod at the 10 jersey with Tarpany at 8, he would get dual status, and I'd probably flip him and Nafahu White around. Well, actually, probably more to the point, Well, I guess for this week, I could even flip him and Barnett around. And then, probably run like Tino and Terrell in the front row. Barnett will drop down to the second row. And just having that versatility, I think, is going to be pretty important early in the season with the way I've structured my team. I guess the glaring issue there might appear to be the lack of um, keeper type options in the second row. Obviously, I've got Tino and Barnett that can flick down, um, but there seems to be a bit of value in the second row. So I've got Hetherington and Wong in the starting team just because they're playing in the middle, so probably a bit more likely to do some work. And then I've got the edges, Fini Fuyaki, Kaltoga, and Laban. So Laban's another watch for the team list today. A few people seem to think that he's going to drop out, near Corey or slide on the edge. Um, Vaymalga, I think it is. Demetric, I remember is the first name. They reckon he's the favourite for the bench spot, but he started in the trial. He started in the Maori All Stars team. So sort of signs point to he is going to get a big role at the start of this season. So I guess where some of the changes have occurred are in the back line, which is why I've sort of tried to hide it. And as I scroll down, the halfback line hasn't changed. Cleary, Duffy, pretty comfortable with that. At 5'8", I've moved Metcalf on field purely because he's going to play first in Vegas, so lock that away. It gives us a bit more flexibility with reserves and the like. But you'll see the move I've made is to bring Jaden Campbell in. So I did watch the Titans trial on the weekend, and that combination between him, Brimson, and Kinney looks very exciting. And if I'm being honest, I probably thought Campbell would end up being the number 158 for the year. So I've decided it may be worth saving a trade, bringing him in. I'm very comfortable with playing Metcalf this week. And then obviously they can probably both play with one on the bench going forward. So, might cost me a couple of points this week not having a starting 5'8". I did have Burton. I won't lie, I was a little bit spooked by their flat performance against the Bronx on Saturday, Arvo. But the Broncos do look pretty good, to be fair. So I do expect the Dogs to bounce back. I do like Burton still as a pick if you're going to go with him. But I think, particularly with his pod status as well, I think Campbell is very lowly owned. I don't know if I can actually see it on here at the moment. No, I have to go to the player list. I can't be bothered to do that. But definitely in the pod sort of territory. So I might be able to get a couple of weeks out of him before people get wise to it. But yeah, playing halfback, shades of his old man basically is what I saw on Saturday night, who ended up winning the Dally M. So we'll back him in, something a bit different, and we'll see how it goes. So at centre wing, we've wanted to go pretty big, and I think we've managed to achieve it. We did have Kiraz out injured. Had Brian Toto. Sounds like he's going to miss this week from the early mail. So we've treated ourselves to Val Holmes. So I was probably going to avoid Val Holmes at the start of the season. I thought the Dragons would take a bit of time to get their combo together. But he doesn't look like he's missed a beat. He's feeding for now tries. I didn't actually see the game, but from all reports, he was the left centre and Finau's on the left wing, just loving life. So he's expensive, but again, it could be a nice little point of difference move to start the season. Ruben Garrick, again, this is an example of a few people getting scared off by the trial performance. I'm not concerned. They have a good run to start the season, Manly. So I'm backing him to be getting some goals and scoring some tries and all that good stuff. Then got a couple of mid-range options that offer some nice upside with RTS and Greg Marzu. RTS moving out to the wing, probably going to get more runs. Consequently, should get more tackle breaks. Hopefully, can get on the end of some tries. And copy and paste for Greg Marzu. The Knights did look pretty good against the Roosters on the weekend. They got Fletcher Sharp out on that edge. Kalen Ponga. I think Dylan Lucas playing left edge. Bradman Best. It's pretty stacked. So hopefully he gets on the end of some of their good work. And then the cheapies, so Starford Toa looks a lot more of a lock now, given the news that Olam may have to medically retire, which is a bit flat. Purdue looks like he's locked in that left edge spot, left centre spot rather, at the Cows. And Rob Toyer, we should see feature in the Roosters team come week 1. Fullbacks haven't changed. Tommy Turbo, he'll be my captain. Um, Although actually it may be Ponga against the Tigers. I haven't quite decided on that. Could probably flip it now. Probably Ponga, I think, is going to be the captain. But obviously, if Cleary does anything near well enough, I've got a couple. Well, probably don't have Metcalf by that point, but I can definitely sub Tino in, Terrell May on the bench, all that sort of good stuff. So that's the SuperCoach team. The fantasy team I'll bring up, I won't talk about all the same players again, just try and pick the different ones. This is a different game, so the strategy I've gone with is go big in the middle. So I've basically got 4 middle keepers with Yo, May, Mitch Barnett, and Hopgood. So Isaiah Yo speaks for himself. Hopgood, just again, be like Tino, just wanted to see him come back. And the fact that him and Barnett are dual position means I've basically got 2 big middles playing in their edge positions as well. And then I've tripled down. I've gone with Tom Gilbert. I did have Connor Watson there, but with the looks of it, he's probably not going to play 80 minutes at hooker. So that sort of spooked me off him a bit in terms of value. Whereas I think Tom Gilbert still offers some value, does offer that flexibility as well, which is really great. Mamazelis, as I said, great pick, but just couldn't afford him in my super coach. And I'm sort of going real bare bones at hooker in this team. It is probably the weak point of this team, but you got to risk it for the biscuit, don't you? Halves we've talked about. Kaltoga in the centres, if you can get a starting edge at 250k in your centre, I think you'd be silly not to have a crack. And the back line we've covered already. On the bench, we've got Duffy, Wong, Laban if he gets picked, the Savo, Smith, Pakes, Purdue. They're all the same. So I sort of have gone with Tuolangi as probably playing on the edge. I guess with my structure in Supercoach, I couldn't quite fit him in. I could go Fini Fuyaki and save another 20k, but I guess this is me maybe hedging my bets on how well they go. Plus, also, I'm not convinced having all 3 back rowers at Parramatta is a great idea, with Hopgood and Kaltoga there. I haven't even really looked at their buy schedule at the moment. So Tuolangi could change. But in terms of the Titans, I have gone Brimson. It does allow me to loop this week, potentially with Laban if he gets named. Campbell's a bit more expensive in fantasy relative to Brimson. So for that sort of upside, because I guess Brimson's price is based on half his games being in the centres, and also one game he came off the bench and scored a 0 last year in fantasy. So I've got him as the looper for round 1, but he'll obviously slot into my wing fullback. Garrick will move up to centre, and then I can rotate those other centres as needed. But it looks like it's 3 o'clock on my watch, so we'll refresh. We'll get team list. We'll see how slow it is, given everyone's probably keen. Not so bad. So the first game, the Warriors and Raiders. So if we have a look at the Raiders team first, can only squeeze the 17 in. But looks like, as expected, in the back line, Tamale filling in for Hopewadi this week. Probably only a 1 gamer, so not one I'm super keen on taking a punt on. In the forward, so Corey Horsburgh gets the start. Owen Paddy I can see on the bench. Zach Hoskin getting named on the edge. So it looks like there's no Nicholson, there's no Mooney, unfortunately, for my sort of dream plan. And yeah, Mooney on the extended bench. Nicholson not even making the extended bench. So there you go. So we might have to try and squeeze Corey in, I think, in our front row. We'll have to do some adjustment. And on the Warriors side, so the back line, pretty much as expected, Leia Tower, Tua Picky getting that wing spot with DWZ out. Harris Tavita getting named in the six. I thought Tamario Martin would be the front runner. So he might be one we have to look at a cheaper price as well, um, depending on where he's available. Probably more so in fantasy. Pretty happy with my halves in Supercoach at the moment. And then the forward, so Niokore does start, and it looks like Laban's nowhere to be seen. So Vaymalga, that's his name. On the bench, Halasima, I think, will be a fairly cheap option as well on the bench. So my plans have blown up after just one game, but that's cool. That's what makes this game so great. Panthers Sharks. So the Panthers going with Edwards, Casey McLean getting the wing spot, and Brian Toto missing out, and Alan Watty's moved to the wings. They haven't even gone with Jesse McLean. So I think if you've got him, you may need to find another option because they've gone with Luke Garner in the centres over Jesse McLean. Jack Cole in the six, that's been widely reported. Forward pack looks to be as expected. Lindsay Smith getting the start. Scott Sorensen getting the start in the edge over Isaiah Papali'i, so probably another one people need to move on. And then the interchange, you got Dane Laurie, Papali'i, Eisenhuth, and Patia. Don't think I've ever heard of this guy before. I'm guessing he's a middle forward based on who they've picked, but I'm not too sure on that. Interesting, the likes of Mav Gaia on the bench, and a lot of sort of cover for halves, hookers. I guess Blaze Talangi would cover backline along with Jesse McLean. So they've got all sort of bases covered there. So I'm guessing Patia would be a middle forward. And the Sharks, I don't think any real surprises. Stone Street in for Katoa, who's out fairly long term. Still going with Hines in the seven, despite, I guess, a bit of talk that he and Trindle would swap roles. So interesting to see how that plays out. Fanua Blake getting a start as expected. Kafusi getting the other starting spot. And then Hamlin Welly and Hazleton off the bench. Atkinson the utility. Talakai the edge cover. So nothing really too big to note there. So I guess we do need to make some changes because these guys are gone. So if we trade them out, as I said, Corey Horsburgh in is probably the smart money, given that he's starting. His dual position, he's fairly cheap as well, looking fit, all that good stuff. And I guess it does sort of corner us a bit in terms of our cash left. So I'll swap him and Barnett maybe. Yeah. So bring Barnett down here just to get a bit more cash in the second row. So I guess, yeah, we're below the 230k mark. So probably the straight swap for Laban would have been Gajeski, who's got the start there at the Bronx, it would seem. But we may need to look elsewhere. So what do we do? I mean, probably the obvious choice is to downgrade Holmes. What was Halasima? Yeah, so he is the cheapish second rower as well. But yeah, coming off the bench, we're not too keen on that. So Finny Fuyaki, I don't even know if we can chop him up. There's no Mooney, no Nicholson. They were probably the sort of cheapish options we could have looked at. Let's go by ownership, see if there's anyone I've clearly missed. So we could just go real cheap with a Miles Martin. I don't think that's the smartest move. I guess we do want to have it fairly comfortable. So probably Kajeski's not great, but he probably is the cheapest starting option going around. So where can we squeeze some cash? I think it's going to be Holmes. It was a bit of a luxury play, but I don't think we can swing it. So I guess if we look at it as 1 mil for 2 spots, we can go a couple of different ways. We can obviously flip it and go another expensive second rower, cheapy on the centre wing. I'm probably more inclined to sort of look for a couple more around the 500k mark, as a bit of value. Um, so in terms of second rowers, well, we can go through the popular ones, I suppose. So Vermelga, very popular. I mean, we could potentially just go with him, nice and cheap. Papali's off the radar now. I guess we've got Gajeski as a backup option. Um, Aaron Clark, pretty sure he was named to start in the 13. Yeah, so potentially an option there. Probably not my favourite option. Um, yeah, not too sure. Tuolangi, I guess, is probably the next one in line at that 430k price. We could go with Seyfarth. Looks like he's going to play on an edge. Pretty well locked in. I think he was the captain for the trial, so they obviously think quite highly of him there. Could be someone like a Tallis Duncan if he gets the 13 with Cam Murray missing out. But I guess at this stage it really is a bit of a guessing game. So, I mean, do we go Zach Hosking, 2% own, 500k, and then see what we could potentially get at centre wing? So, yeah, for now, gets a start. I'm pretty keen on bringing him in too. So, it could be the case if Finau gets a start, we could even just not necessarily muck around and get an elite second rower. Do we just bang in Isaiah Yeo? Jermaine Hopgood at the price is all right. I think we can get anyone we want if we go this route. No, except for Fafita or Angus. Fafita, would you go the triple round one buy? That'd be pretty insane. All right, so I think we'll avoid the Vegas guys. So we'll skip Yo, we'll skip Hosking. We'll try and free ourselves up to make some moves next week, I think. Because, yeah, we're keen on Barnett. Horsburgh's good to go. Cleary, Metcalf, and two of us are Sheck. So what's that, 5 players? I think that still gives us enough flexibility. So let's not really overthink it at this point. I'll just put in, oh no, not Isaiah. Oh, almost made a mistake. Not Nikora. We'll just bang Hopgood in for the time being. But that's probably the decision. I guess if we do go the other way, just for sake of argument, um, and say we do go with a Gajeski wherever he is. Oh, hang on, there's my price again. Yeah, so say we do plug Gajeski in there, we can pretty much get anyone except for Val Holmes, I think, which is a bit flat. Yeah, so that's not ideal. Um, yeah, but I guess I'd be going a bit deeper. Maybe Fletcher Sharp. He's looked pretty good at 5'8". Could be a nice little pod. Like 7% is not the lowest. Could be like a safer bet, like Dylan Lucas playing on that edge. Yeah, so like I guess the players I have been looking at in the centre wing are around this 500k mark anyway. Brimson, centre wing playing 5'8", could be pretty handy. Farlungo if he's playing fullback week one, that's a bit risky. Yeah, so there's heaps of potential options. I think actually the one I wouldn't mind having a punt at the price would be Bradman Best. So I'm just going to save the team because pondering is not good viewing. But we probably have some flexibility there given those two cheapies that we were hoping for didn't quite pan out. And everyone's on here trying to do their best. So with fantasy, we do have to get rid of Laban. Luckily, we've got a bit of cash in the bank, so it shouldn't be too hard to find a replacement. If we go down to 430 odd, should start seeing some white. So we'll just scroll down through all the positions. I mean, we've got most positions covered. Um, Obviously, Hooker's a bit light on. We could go Nafahu White. dual position, Kobe Hetherington playing in 13. Tavanga potentially covering at hooker. I'd have to do a bit more of a deep dive into his minutes at the Warriors. Um, but that could be a nice little point of difference. Get the dual position, a bit more security at hooker would be nice. Um, yeah, nothing really jumps out at this point. Could go Finifuiaki, we've had in the team previously. So a lot of the same sort of players that we've already got in Supercoach. I don't know if there's any difference. Probably lean towards the middles. So Hetherington or Nafahu White. So let's just go Kobe for the time being. And like I said, we'll adjust this based on next week's team list. But we've got Barnett, Cleary, Metcalf, Yo locked in, so 4 players. I guess as well with fantasy, one thing just to consider: if you can probably do vice captain and captain this week, it's probably best because they do lock out after game one. So if you're picking a player next week, like say a Terrell May, you do run the risk of in the next week something could go sideways and you're locked with him in your team. So I guess as much as possible, lock away the guys in Vegas for your captain, vice captain. With SuperCoach, there's an error because it's having a meltdown. I might be able to show it here on screen, maybe not. But with SuperCoach, oh, there we go. I reckon if you can get a vice captain out of the Vegas game, so if you've got Cleary, he's the obvious choice. Hines would be the same if you're going with Hines. Barnett, Isaiah Yo, if you've got them. Even if you're taking a flyer on, say, Casey McLean, could be worth a look. And then, try to keep your captain free for the rest of the round. So you can run the loophole, use those Titans players, and set up your team that way. But we'll wrap the video up there. Don't want it to go on forever and ever. So those are the teams as they currently stand. Like I said, a couple of decisions to make around centre wing, second row, sort of leaning towards a gun centre wing. I might be able to find a way to get Val Holmes back in. That would be the preferred option. But I'll have a play around with it. Fantasy, like I said, big in the middle is the strategy this year. And just hope the cheapies can do something for me. But yeah, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you're enjoying the NRL being back for the 2025 season. Actually, one quick plug before we go. There is a few spots left in the NRL Fantasy league. I did start a second league. It was a bit ambitious. So I have reduced it to 12 teams. This could end up even being 8 or 10, depending on the response in the next few days. So get on board with that. The code is there, 9VWM94SU. It's easier if I put the link in the description. Jump in there. But as I said, comment, like, subscribe for all the fantasy sports stuff on the channel. I think we're up around 530 subscribers now, so it keeps growing. Thanks to all you legends getting on board. But other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.